Welcome, everyone, to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past broadcasts are podcasts. You can find them at ArtistFirst.com. We welcome your questions and comments. DJ at ArtistFirst.com. Now here they are, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
And thank you very much, Z-Man. And I am Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret.
And tonight, in our quest for silkiness, we have made a great leap forward, to quote a philosopher, or maybe a despot. And we're hopefully running through our brand new soundboard. So I put in the Luther Vandross waveform.
Oh, I see.
Hey, baby. It's not quite tuned in yet. Anyway, tonight we're going to talk, because in honor of it being very silky, what we're going to do is we're going to attack a very simple subject that nobody will disagree about, and that subject is religions.
Oh, lovely.
Lovely. But not before you tune. I can see you reaching for the dial. Don't wait for a second. You know us. We're not going to talk about religions per se, but what we're going to talk about is, in essence, how the ego views or uses or leverages religions, and religions come in all shapes and sizes. I would say that today, people say, well, what are the major religions? And they would say, I don't know, Hinduism or Christianity or whatever. And I would say one of them is veganism. there are many, because the way I'd like to define religion and how we're going to prosecute this is really to go back to the root, religio, which is in essence a set of rules. Just to digress for a second, almost any philosophy that becomes dogmatic, that becomes full of strictures and full of rules, becomes in essence a religion. You have your sinners, you have your saints, you have your the unwashed, the unsanctified, those who are in the outer darkness. And you can look at it, almost any philosophy. We were picking on vegans before, but you could say fitness nuts, and there are those who if you don't do this particular workout at these particular amount of reps for these particular days under these conditions, you're not really among the actual saved. And they go out proselytizing, they literally stand out on street corners and hand out pamphlets, and they want you to hear the good word about, in essence, some fitness program. Vitamins, the many denominations of vitamins and vitamin regimens are, in my opinion, a religion, because they literally become a not just a way of life, but a way of defining who is living life well. Are you taking this vitamin or that vitamin? Are you on this regimen or that regimen? Diets.
Oh, diets.
Cosmetics. All these things can be defined as religions. Why? Because they're all in their basic root good things, or at least they're not necessarily harmful things. But when they are used to, and by the ego, are used to differentiate, to become dogmatic, to become an ideology, to say who is in, who is out, who's doing it right. Those phrases, are you doing it right? We heard those in the cancer wards. All of these things are religions. And so, given that sort of a base, we can talk about all these different ones, but in each one of them, there's a common thread, and that common thread is the ego.
Well, the religion aspect of it is a pattern of thinking that becomes crystallized or ossified. There's no flexibility to it. What you're doing is you've formed a habit of looking at something a certain way, and it's got to meet these parameters.
Mm.
And if it doesn't, then it's classified as bad.
Mm.
But if it does, it's classified as good.
Mm.
And it makes no room for experience, because it's the rigidity of it dictates your response instead of allowing whatever's happening in the moment. You can take it in and observe things. You're seeing it through a certain kind of lens. And seeing it through a lens does not allow for variations of any kind.
Mm.
And frankly, life in general is nothing but change and variation. So the whole idea of setting those rules up was to try to give you guidelines, which is understandable, a little bit of structure. But if it's taken too far, it actually narrows the scope of what you're capable of observing. Because according to those rules, your world is only allowed to perceive what the rules are dictating to you.
Mm. Exactly right.
And it's very, as we said, it doesn't allow for you to be in the moment. You already have this preconceived notion of, I am going to be talking to this person who is good because they believe the same way I believe. We've got to make sure that, you know, we're eating only organic, or only, pick it. There's so many rules, like, especially if you think about it. If you're doing only organic, when you go to the store, the only thing that you're going to go to is the shelves that contain what you believe is all organic. But it's very interesting because some places they organize things a lot differently. And it's not always the organic is in this one section. Or there are variations in it. And then the definition of organic.
Well, again, as any good religion is, it has many, many rules. It has a book of literally a sacred book that you have to follow. But I wanted to go back because you hit something so beautiful there, that when you're within this framework, or this really, it's the rigidity of it, you're not allowed to experience life in the moment. You're only allowed to experience life within the constraints of the dogma. So all experiences are warped. Either they're classified as wrong and to be ignored, or worse, to be to be actively expunged from your world. You don't want anybody to come into your house who doesn't have macrobiotic socks on or whatever. And all other experiences, there's a filter. It's like anything coming in. Here's the whole broad universe coming in, and it hits against this filter, and the ego is right there saying, nope, yep, nope, 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 yep, nope, yep. And then that's what it allows within. It says, these things are not to be experienced, or to be ignored, shunned, cast into the outer darkness. And only, as you said very beautifully, I'm only allowed to associate with or experience things which agree with my dogmatic, religious, in this case, the definition of the term, not a religion, but religious viewpoint. The rules become they end up becoming a I want to say filter, but really a experiential gap that you can only see through, very much like the cage, the Plato's cage.
Cave.
I'm sorry, the cave. So
Yes, in Plato's cave, the people are just sitting and they're looking straight ahead, and the only thing they see is shadow play on the wall. They don't see. They see the light casting a shadow against the wall, but they don't even see where the light source is. It's all behind them, so they can't see. They can't turn. They can't. And you think about it, this is the rigidity of looking only a certain way. And not even, you think about it, it's shadow play, so there is no color or depth, no texture. And the other senses aren't even engaged. You don't smell, you don't taste, you don't touch. It is just what shadow play is in front of you. And a dogmatic way of thinking narrows your experience of life that way, so that all you see are shadows or forms moving around in front of you. And most people say, oh, you have to see what's in front of your eyes. Well, there is much, much more to your consciousness than just what your eyes are telling you. So to understand that you as a human being have a vast range of sensory perceptions. You know, your traditional 5s, you have your 6th, 7th, however far you want to go, or willing to try, because in order to take a step outside the tangible 5, you're going to have to be able to hold your perspective or consciousness at a very objective point. So, regardless, understanding that you are so much more than what shadows are moving in front of you. Because I always wondered, why didn't they move? Why were they just sitting there? Just because they were told that this is where they have to stay?
In Plato's cave, yeah.
So you can almost look at that as, you know, the strictures of a society. You can only be this way, and you can only look there. And it's just amazing to me to think of, it's not that they were going to hurt each other, but there was really no freedom.
There's something interesting there, and this is the other day we were, I believe we were watching a video, and the person who in this particular video was expressing a very nihilist, or a very sort of nothing matters viewpoint. And I think when you entrench yourself within a dogma or dogmas, the experience of life becomes so thin and so shadow play and so colorless that it lends itself to nothing matters. It's all nihilism. Nothing. You know, life comes and it goes to the end, and it you know, you disappear, and the dogmatic filters can get so thick and the box is so small that the consciousness is, in essence, trammeled. And this ego form, this depressive, nothing matters ego form, it wants to, in essence, dominate. And I think the nihilism, this whole idea that everything in the universe, it disappears when I die, is a byproduct in some ways of these various filtering dogmas, these experiential, strictures, that you can't open yourself to the full experience of life and say anything could happen. How exciting! How frightening! How you certainly can't be. If you're in the mode of consciousness and opening yourself to all experience, you can't be too dogmatic, because you have no idea what's coming next, and you also can't be too, sort of complacent, that this is wonderful, the wonderful dogmas. Oh, I know what's going to happen. I know what this one's going to say. I know what that one's going to say. I know these people are always this way and these people are always that way. Isn't that nice and safe and boring?
Well, there are people who all they want is that predictability. And you are at perfect liberty to choose that way of operating. Predictability. The problem is that if you're trying to impose that kind of life on everybody else, it's really a problem.
and I think it comes to our next point here. What we wrote a little bit about the ego and the fact that the ego loves these dogmatic religions. It loves the rules because the ego wants really one particular thing. It wants identity. It wants to claim identity. It wants to capture energy from consciousness and say, I am this and I am not that. And the other is a beautiful thing of every dogmatic religion. If you are a vegan, there are many who are not vegans, and they are the evil ones, or they're the ones that you have to proselytize to and perhaps convert them from their sinful ways and bring them into the fold and, make sure that they're at the first level and then they're at the second level and you're this and you're that, and you get to categorize them and say, well, I'm a this kind of vegan, or I do this kind of latte, or I do, it's all these wonderful boxes and rows upon rows of labels that the ego just, it's so wonderful.
And what I found really fascinating is that they use guilt or shame.
Like all good religions.
Right. Exactly.
You sinner, you.
But seriously, they want to shame you into doing what they feel is right because they'll be comfortable if you do what they tell you to do.
You should reiterate that. They will be comfortable.
Yes. They will be very comfortable because you're going to be doing what they're telling you to do. They want you to take their value system as yours. Yeah. And then we can propagate.
Right. And you see it in the major organized religions, but they all had an origin. Let's back up a second. All the religions that exist, every one of them, let's not name any, but they usually have an origin, which is good, because in essence, somebody sees a value and insight and enlightenment, and they're able to use that to really expand their experience or get more out of their life. And then the ego steps in and says, we got to tell people about this, and then we got to organize them. Or people in and of themselves find this person and treat them as a guru, or they say, well, you're the great spiritual leader, teach us, tell us how to do this, give us the 17 rules to enlightenment. And,
Well, I find it fascinating because you can see it in the fashion industry.
Yeah.
You have your icons and your trendsetters, and they decide what everybody's going to do.
Right. Who's in, who's out?
Well, we're not doing, I don't know, like this year, no furs this year, but we are going to go into puffer jackets or something, it just, and it's amusing for a period of time, but as long as, people aren't running after you saying, how dare you wear that?
Right. Or categorizing you into those who are with the trend and those who are behind it, those who are unfashionable, those who are, basically saying that this person is completely prejudging them based on what they're wearing or who they're wearing, especially who they're wearing. And the ego again loves this feedback loop of being seen, on the red carpet to do in the fashion industry. And
their ego is being fed because you are the one that tells us what we're supposed to wear.
Right.
Which I find absolutely fascinating. It's like, why that? and I know women who try to seek out other women. It's like, okay, help me. What should I wear? As opposed to, well, what do I like or what do I feel good? No, what should I wear?
Right.
And it's like, well, there, depending on your situation, I suppose there's an appropriateness to your dress, yes, but I mean, to go past that and into a whole bunch of other, colors and textures and etc. It's amazing to me that the idea of putting something on your body, something as we would think as simple as putting it on your body, you can use that as an expression of you.
Yes.
But it's got to be an expression of the true you, not the projected, what you think will make me look better you.
Well, and this is a wonderful sort of subtle point. Let's take fashion for a moment. As a religion, if there's an expression that says the dress is wearing you, or the clothes are wearing the person, rather than the other way around, because in essence, people can assume that a particular clothing or a particular look will do something for them. It will put them in a particular stature or station. But yet, in truth, sometimes you can look at them and say, well, this is even exposing them further for somebody who doesn't have these types of actual expressions. Or, as you just said, from the best point of view, fashion, all the universe of choices that are out there could allow you to express your individuality to a perfection. It's like having billions of words and being able to choose the exact ones that you want to use to express your inner thought or your inner emotion. Wonderful. This is fashion, not as a religion, but as an experiential universe of things that you dip into and say, wow, there's everything. I can be this, I can be that. And once you feel it from the inside and you are able to express it on the outside, everyone will look at you and feel that this is you that's being shown, that you're enhancing, you're revealing an inner expression which wouldn't be obvious without these things, like your words or like, doing a particular artist or painting or whatever. However, the opposite is just as true. If you're instead following it as a religion, you're putting on that, well, this is high heels season, and this is, wear your underwear on the outside month, and this is whatever it is, and then you put all those things together and you look like a mess, but yet it's like the emperor's new clothes. You're like, well, I must look like $1 million because I've got everything on that's trendy in this femtosecond, but you don't. But yet in the religion, people would say, oh yes, you're wearing all the right things. You've got all the right people. You've got all the right this, and you've done all the right plastic surgery and blah, 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 blah. You're perfect. And yet it's hollow and empty, and it's a shadow play on the wall, and it's nihilist.
Mm-hmm.
You burn yourself out trying to go from trend to trend to trend to trend. And yet in the experiential, the thing that you were talking about, saying that, let me look at the universe of things I have. You do this very well. You express yourself through your clothing choices, but you don't, I've never seen you say, well, this is in today, so I'm going to put this on. No. You're like, I feel, it's not an identity I feel like this will express me today. So I've got like 4 outfits, maybe 5, and 3 pairs of shoes. Margaret has a few more than that because she has the ability to use them as artwork or as expressive, I don't know. You're able to make a little symphony out of your clothing choices. And I think women look at you, I know they've done this, and say, well, I love what you're wearing. I could never wear that. Well, and you're like, well, maybe not this, but you can do this. But that's the problem, is the religious part of it is, oh, well, people like, at my particular age and my height and this, I can't wear that.
Right.
Well, sure you can. And you can eat meat once in a while. It'll be fine.
Oh, my goodness. But, yeah, no, just the understanding of putting clothes on and then realizing that you can use this as an expression. And that's what most people want to do. They want to be able to walk out there and people see them and say, okay, I know who you are because you've put together something that I really, really like, that it's expressing an aspect of your soul.
On many levels, too.
Yeah, that speaks to me. And this is the point I guess I'm trying to make. It's understanding that the communication of one human being to another is multi-level.
Exactly.
It's multi-level, and we speak to each other not just in words, although this is what we are using right now.
Right. Keep listening.
But we can speak to other people in terms of song, in terms of melody, in terms of poetry, in terms of color and texture,
touch,
art forms. It goes on. Just the human being who is has a wonderful range of expression. And finding what you're comfortable in expressing is always a good thing. Yes, I do understand you have to, like with dress, you have to be aware of certain appropriateness.
Norms, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you don't go for a New Year's Eve sparkly dress.
At the beach.
Well, at the office.
Oh, at the office, right.
All right.
I've never done that.
Oh, well, that's good.
That they know of.
Oh, dear.
But no, you're right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But if you allow yourself within certain parameters to find a way to express yourself, because I remember doing this as a small child, because, we had uniforms, and everybody had the exact same shoes and skirt and
pinafore,
tie, the beanie, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
And you wanted to be able to say, well, I'm me. I'm not just a cookie cutter. So you found little things that you could do to set yourself apart. And it's just little things, but it's enough to make you say, okay, I'm not just such and such. And the whole idea, of course, is to focus you on doing your work and excelling at your subjects.
Isn't it and we're running a little bit, but isn't it like the Tower of Babel? The bricks versus the uncut stone. The uncut stone is an individual thing which has color and texture and shape and form, and every one of them is different individuals. And bricks are uniformity. But you know what? Let's conform a little bit and go back to the studio, take a little break, listen to a couple commercials, then we'll come back on the other side and talk more about religion.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lynes is book 1 of the adventures of Dev Kalian, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time. The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lynes, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, the Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. Moonstones and murder. Real murderers need a heart of stone. Meet Maggie and Mike Heartstone, parents of twin boys, entrepreneurs, and now empty nesters. Mike is retired, not by choice, from his position as chief of police in the picturesque resort town of Hamilton. And now his wife Maggie and her shop, the Cozy Crystal, are their only source of income. When a mysterious killing interrupts Hamilton's famous Springfield Park rock show, the townsfolk, the Cozy Crystal, and their lives are rocked to the core. Can Mike and Maggie figure out who is behind the murderous deeds before the town comes crashing down around them? A touch of romance, a little mayhem, and a whole lot of suspense, along with plenty of comedy and thrills galore. Get your crystal magnifying glass out. It's time for some moonstones and murder. Available on Amazon, Apple, Kobo, and other fine e-tailers in ebook and paperback. Out soon on Audible. Get your copy today. The wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief Dev is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indie Bragg Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Hi, this is Hannah Ruth from the band Wild Hum. Check out our new Americana Soul CD, Wild Hum, at our website, wildhummusic.com. And you are listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Thank you.
Thank you for your obedience. You are listening to The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Back to your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you, Z-Man. And yes, we have a very religious audience. We are their gurus. Anyway, Margaret, if you wouldn't mind, we kind of went past it a little bit, but we do have a nice quote from one of our favorite people, Eckhart Tolle, about this. So maybe let's start the half hour off with that.
All righty. If you believe only your religion is the truth, you are using it in the service of the ego. Used in such a way, religion becomes ideology and creates an illusory sense of superiority, as well as division and conflict between people. Eckhart Tolle.
And that's what, in that last sentence there is exactly what the ego wants. The ego wants two really big things. It wants identity, and it wants division. It wants the other. It wants to say, I am right, and you are not. Or I am this, and you are that. I am a superior being, you are an inferior being. And a lot of religion is also used for third chakra stuff. It's for power over, power under stuff. You are not just wrong, but you're inferior, and I have the right to tell you what to do, enslave you, imprison you, do all the evils which over the centuries and many thousands of years have been done from one to another in the name of a particular religion, whether it's a religion that we think of when we think of religion, or just a set of dogmatic philosophies. In the Talmud, there were the Talmudic rules. There were 600 and whatever rules, and if you violated any set of them, you would be cast out into a different sect. You'd be a Samaritan, or you'd be this, or you'd be that. Very, very, very commonality was everywhere. Or if you look amongst all the various denominations of Christianity, every one of them finds a tiny little thing that they can say, well, you're not this, you're that, and that's all division, and it's all using religion inappropriately.
Yes, because you basically are concentrating on the differences of the dogma as opposed to finding what the whole truth is. All religions, or especially with Christianity, they all have a piece of the truth. They don't have the whole truth, because that which is Christ is much vaster than anything any human mind can come up with. And that was what Jesus was teaching, is the vastness of consciousness of humanity. Your humanity is limitless. You have that potential. But we as humans, what do? We concentrate on all the differences. And again, going back to, well, I do it this way, so I'm right and you're wrong.
Well, the rules and who's following them and who's not following them.
Right, and you see it, oh my goodness, in schools where the high school you had your cliques, or even grammar school you had cliques, and they do it this way and you do it that way. Instead of it, well, why can't we celebrate the fact that you are doing it that way and I'm doing it this way? Differences totally embraced, and it's okay. Especially if you're making space for someone's idiosyncrasies or someone's differences. It's okay, but to force somebody else to take on what you think they should take on because you know better, that's useless, frankly, because all you're doing at that point is creating the conflict and embracing division.
Inculcating and promoting.
You are truly putting the division first.
Yes, exactly. The thing about when you're looking to create division rather than looking to, the two terms are very interesting. Diversity and division. They have a common root, and they're oftentimes confused. People, in the name of quote unquote diversity, promote division. The you just said it, rather than celebrate and embrace differences and say, in essence, say, well, you do it this way, I do it that way. And, the old 70s, I'm okay, you're okay. It's not like that. It's like, you do it this way, I do it that way, and you are evil. and need to be expunged. And you need to be brought into the fold and either agree that everything I'm doing is right and everything you're doing is wrong, or we are going to have a fight about it. And you see it writ large in today's, online societies, if you will. People spend an inordinate amount of time, seemingly their whole lives, arguing with perfect strangers on the internet about, how many angels can dance on the head of a pin, in essence. They're very, if you look at them, they're extremely, I use the word in its broadest sense, they're extremely Talmudic arguments. They're very, very, very subtle and fine divisions that everyone has to agree upon, or you are cast into the outer darkness, or you spend, flame wars trying to convince people that it's not three lefts or a right and then a pin to the forehead. It's three rights, a left, and then a pin to the forehead. It's like, okay, they're pretty similar. We're all both ending up with pins in our forehead. No, you have no idea what you're talking about. So and people get impassioned by this. Why? Because the ego is an entity that does not wish to have its identity challenged. And when you disagree with an ego-based identity thing, it becomes an existential threat to the ego. The ego says, no, I cannot allow division. I cannot allow, in essence, a dissenting viewpoint.
Well, you can, it's looking for division, okay? It's not that I cannot allow division. It's looking for division.
Right.
But it needs that in order to say that this is who I am. Instead of understanding that who you are has nothing to do with the rules that you're putting together.
And you're right. It's looking for division as a source of conflict to identify that which is not me and which is me.
Right. And people believe that this is the way you're supposed to find out who you are.
Yes.
No, seriously, that always boggled my mind. It's like, wait a minute. You have to have conflict to understand who you are?
Well, and this is where you get these, bucket lists and these midlife crises. These are also, the whole idea of this nihilist kind of, I've lived all this time and I haven't lived life. This is because you've lived it behind this terrible filter of ego-based, religious ego-based rules. And then you get to a certain point and the consciousness wells up and says, I've been wounded here too long. This is dry toast. This is starving me. We need to experience all of life. And this driving force is a rebellion of sorts, but it can also become its own religion, unfortunately.
Well, if you're honest with yourself and you're moving within this realm of rigidity and rules, and it's only got to be a certain way, otherwise I'm not happy. I think that if you were honest with yourself and you got it the way you want it, you'd realize you're still not happy.
If you were honest with yourself.
Yes. But you're still not happy because what do? Okay, I got that. Now you focus on the next thing that makes you unhappy. You're not abiding in what you consider happiness. You are abiding in division.
And actually that's very profound. Not only you find something which, quote unquote, is going to make you happy, and once obtaining it, what you find, if you really were honest, is to say, I wasn't seeking something that I could obtain. I was seeking, I was comfortable in being lacking. I want to experience another form of lack. I want to say, now what's the next thing that's making me unhappy? In essence, the ego is saying, happiness for the ego is actually an undesirable state. In other words, contentment, comfort, experience, expansion. No. We can't have any of those things. We have to look for the next thing we need in order to be happy.
So the ego really has nothing to do when things have come to a point of comfort and happiness and satisfaction.
And contentment.
Mm-hmm.
The discontent that you live under constantly, and I think many people live in a constant state of discontent, whether it's anxiety or stress or lack or whatever it is, it's a constant state of discontent, stress, because the ego wants that division too. Contentment, happiness, understanding that the rules weren't there to make you unhappy. The rules were just there, as you said before, as a structure, just as something to help you. Once you get there, the ego wants to push you right out of that again. No, you don't understand. We need another rule. We need to find another thing that will make us unhappy. We need to find another thing that can send us looking for, the next fulfillment, the next experience. This jaded idea of if only I will get to this point, and then it has to be the next point. Like I have to get another $1,000, another $100,000, a bigger house, a bigger car.
But that's my point. If you reach what you consider the one thing, I would be happy if only this would happen.
Right.
And
only had $1 billion or whatever.
And it happens. And then there's a level of emptiness that occurs within. And the ego says, why am I unhappy? There must be a reason. So it starts looking for, well, what's making me unhappy, or who's making me unhappy? And it goes down that particular train of thought or habit form. And if you become aware of that habit form, that you're actually doing that's your first clue on realizing that the cage that your mind is in is not locked.
Exactly true. That you have the key, and we said this in a couple shows back. That when we were in the cancer wards in Sloan Kettering, we were forced to break through that and realize that our happiness was entirely within our own control, and that the ego's form of happiness was never going to be, because in that situation you would say, well, how can you be happy? And what you realize, if you come through that and realize that nothing will ever make you happy, but you can be happy regardless of anything, because you decide to be. You accept where you are.
Well, what you decide is you choose joy.
Exactly.
Happiness is transient, okay? But joy is an internal state of being.
Right. Well, using the words we were on, but yes, of course, it's not happiness. It's a different thing because, as you said, the search for happiness is never fulfilled by the ego because it doesn't really want it to be fulfilled.
Well, it wouldn't have a reason to be.
Exactly. Fulfillment is the death of the ego. And same thing with religion. You never want to actually attain the fulfillment, the true enlightenment, which is at the basis, or the true expansion, vastness of which is at the basis of Christianity, or the basis of Buddhism, or the basis of these various large religions. The ego there has no place. The ego has to be relinquished, has to be. People say destroy your ego. No, you outgrow it. You understand its place. You know that it's not you, and that it withers because it just isn't you anymore. That you are vast. That you are enlightened. That you are joined to spirit.
It's a facet of you.
Yes.
Okay. You don't need to destroy it, but you do understand that you don't need to concentrate on your ego continually. There are multiple facets that you are. And staying on this one little facet cripples you.
Exactly so. And once you realize that the ego is a component of you, that it is not you, it maybe the withers is the wrong word and destroys is the wrong word. It's that the ego assumes its proper place. Yes, you have an ego. It's a essential component of a human being, but it is not the entity that seeks to overwhelm and claim identity. I am this. I am this particular religion, or I am this particular dogma, or I am, you are not, and I am this. I am right, you are wrong. Those are all the wrong, or all the ego forms. When you get pushed beyond them, perforce, or when you reach the end of them, and you step beyond, you can see, you suddenly are, lifted up is perhaps the wrong word, but you are expanded. You realize that all those things that you were before are in some ways meaningless, but still they're there, but you well encompass them. You see around them. You know that none of what you were thinking was going to make you happy would ever make you happy. Yet joy is still within your grasp and always was. That there is no set of rules that are the right rules, but you can use a set of rules because you don't want chaos, but yet within that set of rules, you have to say all experience can come in and anything can happen. And if it doesn't fit in the rules, we'll have to just experience it, accept it, and find something new. That is such a more expansive, such a truer you than the ego you, which is broken by these things. So how many times did we see people just broken by these circumstances? Their egos shattered, and then some were able to get beyond it. Some couldn't.
Yes, well, the ego is part of your identity. Okay? It's understanding that who you actually are, which is your identity, is not just ego. And most people equate the two. Mm. It's understanding that you are much broader than ego. And to take steps past that is usually really scary for people because it's unknown territory. Mm. Even though they are still experiencing stuff, they've never really looked at it to understand that, well, oh my goodness, that experience made me feel this. That experience made me feel deep sorrow or beautiful
wonder, joy,
wonder, awe. And just to begin to understand that you have the experiences. You don't necessarily have to name them because sometimes your experience is beyond words. Mm-hmm. Frankly, most times your experience is beyond words. But in order to communicate it, you find a word that comes closest to the experience, and it usually only just touches the surface. Mm. Because, like the idea of love. Loving another human being, whether it be your spouse or your child, is way different than loving pizza. It's just understanding that human words are tools. And sometimes the tool is appropriate and sometimes it's not. But to understand that you must come to the point of trying to grasp what is trying to be communicated, the whole concept of what is being communicated, or the emotion, or whatever it may be, to reach past the words. And sometimes people just want to cling to the words, and the word does not mean the same thing for that person. So they take offense
Well, they look for division, even. That's the ego.
And so that they can maintain that, well, you're stupid because, you're using that word for such and such. And it's like no judgment call here. Do you understand what was actually being communicated? If you do not understand, find another way to try to grasp the concept, whatever it may be. But if you don't do that, and all you want to do is cling to, oh, well, no, I've already judged that person is stupid. So
you shut them down.
Well, you're clinging to that. To understand that you're clinging to that, which means your experience is limited, and all you want is the conflict. You want conflict at that point. To understand that is what is at the core of who you are. You want conflict.
And the ego.
You're choosing strife in your life. Is that what you really want?
You mentioned also, oftentimes, you'll have a shared experience with someone which you try to tell a third person. And the words, no matter how well crafted, can't capture it. You can only look to that person and say, yeah, this happened. We know it, but there's no way to tell it. Christopher's story is a good way. I mean, people say, and they read this and they say they feel like they know us. And we're like, okay, you know a little bit, you know something. But in fact, no one can know what that was like fully. And that's fine. You have to understand that your experience, everyone's experience, is completely and utterly unique. And shared experience is a precious thing, even though it's still unique. Your experience of what we went through and my experience were different. However, our shared experience was something that we can both reflect upon and know that we went through something together. This is, the part of the human experience is that we go through it together with others and that we can grow through that. The thing here, though, is that religions don't allow you to do that. And the unfortunate thing is that the strictures of this clock religion are bringing us to the end of the show. Mm-hmm. But so anyway, let's take the last 30 seconds to just say, well, don't use religion as an ego prop. Use it as something to enhance your life. And I'm Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret. And understand that your ego is a fanatic. Mm-hmm. Thank you for listening.